Bobby Eli.
All right.
Right here. How you doing?
How you doing, Tim?
It's my pleasure.
Pleasure being here.
I've looked forward to meeting you. I mean, I look at you and all the things that you've accomplished over the years. Let's go back to when you first began and first got into the business.
Well, I was the guitar player on a Titanic, actually, and I was saved. From there, it just sort of started there and petered out slowly. But I actually started in the very early 70s with playing on sessions with Tom Bell, Gamble and Huff, Philadelphia National Records, and sort of started there and developed into writing songs and producing, and one thing led to another, and here I am, in beautiful downtown Wilmington. I love
it. What a great cast of characters down here, huh? Yeah, I mean, I look at what you've done as far as the different artists that you've worked with. I mean, I'm looking at your bio. Jackson 5. I mean, you studio. I guess were you a studio magician one day, and then just boom. And
yeah, what happened was Gamble and Huff. We basically all grew up together, and from West Philly and everything. And when they started their production company back in the late '60s. I was sort of elected to be one of the in-house guitar players, and they called me a pretty soulful white guy and whatever. They said, "Man, a guy plays, and he's all right. Let's elect him to be in what became MFSB. Originally, it was called the Family. Then it became MFSB. I'm not going to mention what that stands for. You can guess if you want to."
Now that Philly sound. That was there. Now what happened to it? I mean, it was there and running hard, and I mean the disco eras was kicking it hard, and then all of a sudden, whoa! What happened to it?
Well, what happened was, I think the catalyst behind the whole deal was when Teddy Pendergrass had his accident, and back in 1982, and the morale sort of went down after that, and although it never really stopped. I mean, there still is action over at Sigma, Philadelphia. Patti LaBelle records there. The OJs still come back there. Gerald Levert records there and mixes there, and there's still basically a lot of action coming out of that facility. Obviously not like it was before, but it's still going on.
Yeah. Now what's on your agenda right now as far as what's happening? I know that you're doing some work right now. I guess in that business you're constantly working though. But the problem is, what do you do with it after you get it completed and put it out there? I mean, so what you got some things working on in the studios right now that you're looking hopeful that'll make it, or?
Oh yeah. Right now, several things are going on. I've got. Do you remember the Times from back in the '60s, who originally did So Much in Love? Okay, so they've resurfaced on the recording scene. So I've had them in the studio. We just did about 5 new pieces of material, and we're about to shop them. Although we do have label interest already, so that's kind of.
Okay, we got all the business stuff out of the way, because that's not what we brought you on here tonight. We want to talk about the behind-the-scenes stuff. Yeah, because you've got to have some amazing stories. I mean, because I look at, once again, the bio and the different artists that you performed on their records with and everything, so you were right there in the studios on a lot of the most unusual thing that ever happened. And after all these years, I guess there's a lot of things that happened, but the one thing that might come to mind over and above everything else?
Well, let me think here. There's a lot of things that happened, but I don't think I could mention them on television, obviously. So if I do happen to, well, you can't bleep anything out because we're kind of live here. So let me think back to, okay, one interesting incident. This happened on a session by Billy Paul. It was Me and Mrs. Jones back around '73. I was on my way down 12th Street getting ready to go in the studio, and I saw some sort of commotion happening in front of the building at Sigma Sound. All right, so there was a drunk guy was kind of running down the street, and he grabbed somebody's radio, right? And he ran into Sigma Sound, right? And there was blood he ran into the studio. The cop came by, had a German Shepherd dog. The dog grabbed him on the arm. There's blood all over the place. So the first thing that I saw actually was the rear end of a horse. The horse and the rider were trying to get into the studio, right, to follow the dog, to follow the culprit and everything. And this is the beginning of my Tuesday morning at 10 o'clock, And out of that day became Me, Mrs. Jones was recorded that day, which was a multi-platinum single on Philadelphia International Records.
Me and Mrs. Jones.
And
you guys know it. Where you at? I'm trying to audition here. You guys ain't doing a thing for me.
It wasn't me.
It wasn't there, huh? But some of the other things that you've worked on. I mean, you talk about Me and Mrs. Jones. I guess you're Love Won't Make Me Wait. I mean, where did that come from?
Well, where did it come from? It was originally inspired by, there was a singer years ago called Gloria Lynn who had a record called I Wish You Love. And the night that the song was written, I actually was eating peanut butter cookies, drinking some wine, some white wine, and a couple other things on the side. And I was playing my guitar sitting on my amp, right? And I was playing the changes to I Wish You Love. And it sort of evolved into this other entity, which became Love Won't Let Me Wait. And I was thinking of the Frank Sinatra character with his coat draped over his shoulder and the hat cocked to the side, and having one more for the road and tinkling glasses. And somehow it inspired that song. Somehow it sort of evolved out of all this osmosis, you know.
And then I guess you put it down and then figured it all out, wrote it out.
Yeah.
And then I'm just trying to, we got so many artists out there, young artists that are trying to make it, writers and producers. I mean, I look on my stage over here and I have 3 of them right here with us. I mean, they just happen to be guests here.
Fabulous.
Fantastic artists. I mean, when you talk about people in that business and all, there's so much talent out there and there's such big competition. So you got something like Love Can't Make Me Wait. I'm sure Rob's got his songs and Dave's got his songs. Now, where do you take it from there to get it to, you know, you didn't personally record the song. I guess you were on the...
Produced it.
Right. But how do you get that to that next level? I mean...
Okay, usually these days, I mean, back then we had pre-existing deals. This particular one was with Atlantic, you know, so we had a couple of built-in album deals. We had like a 5-album deal with Major Harris, a 5-album deal with Blue Magic that sort of evolved. And this particular song, I'll start with this song, was written with Major's vibe in mind. You know, it wasn't written for anybody else at the time, and it sort of happened, I guess it was written a couple of days before the actual session, and it just sort of happened. And he was a perfect artist. He had sort of he had a nondescript kind of sound, not great, you know, but it sort of worked. He had this sort of laid back, you know, kind of thing, and it happened in 2 takes, you know.
So it was kind of I guess you was already preset before you ever even wrote the song that you were going to be able to put it on an album then.
Yeah, he came along and auditioned one day. He used to be with the Delphonics, and he came over and auditioned. He left the Delphonics and came up and he sang What's Going On by Marvin Gaye, and I think a Sam Cooke song, Change Is Going to Come. And I said, yeah, this guy's good. Let's do it. So signed to WMOT, and they in fact, they signed him to Atlantic. Atlantic picked up the deal right away, and the rest is history. Or the rest is a mystery, actually. I don't know what the heck happened. I can tell you what happened, but you don't want to know.
Yeah, but it's one. I hope it's not another Frankie Smith story. I don't think I can handle 2 of those in my lifetime. Because there was, you know, a lot of that going on where people did a lot of things back in those days. I mean,
back in these days too.
I guess it still goes on today. You know, I'm not. These guys are crooks. I can tell by looking at them. I mean, outside of these guys, I don't know that many. You know, you throw these names around like they're everyday guys that you talk to, which they are everyday guys that you talk to when you're in that business at the level. But let's go on back. Before you got, how did you become a studio musician to get to where you're at today? I mean, with the writings and all.
Yeah, what happened was, and I can backtrack right after the Titanic incident. I was actually the first guitar player to do silent films and everything. So right after that, I was born and raised in the ghetto of North Philadelphia, and I was the only white guy left in the neighborhood. And my house was the meeting ground, I guess you could say, for all the groups that come up and practice. And they said, oh man, Eli got his guitar. You know, the day after I got my first electric guitar, the word got out quickly, and everybody came up to my house to practice. And people like Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes, the Intruders, and different people from the area used to come up and hang out at my house, and we sort of all learned together. In the interim, right around I want to give away my age, 19-something or other, I met Kenny Gamble in West Philly at a place called the Vegas Bar, and he was working as a lab technician at Mr. Cordia Hospital, and he kind of dabbled in writing songs, and he had an old 1964 Plymouth with a torn top, and we would ride around and cruise around and, you know, kind of...
How old was the car at the time?
How old was the car at the time? God. Well...
I'm trying to get back to the age deal. You know, I'm going to get it out of him, Danny. That's what you want. I know that's what you... The Gorilla family! A gorilla! Yeah!
All right.
And, of course, we've got with us Bobby Eli, and Bobby Eli's done so much and so many things, that the stories over the years and everything. I've talked to Danny. I mean, you and Michael Nice go back.
Right.
I mean, all you guys from Philly are kind of tied together and everything. Is there any more, Danny? I mean, we have some more guys from Philly going to come on, and as the years come on and on, I guess so.
Try to get them as much as possible. But you know what I always want to ask Bobby? At the end of Love Won't Let Me Wait, there's a young lady doing some moaning.
Exactly.
Is that accurate?
We had her behind the screen, and she was, can I say what she was doing? She was doing a certain act, let's say, behind the screen because she didn't want to be noticed. So I don't think she was acting. She was doing a solo deal there, you know what I'm saying? And I do have...
I don't know. For some reason, I got a feeling that Danny McEwen is trying to take this to another level.
Bobby, I made love on your stuff. When I met you, I said, oh.
Yes.
Then we all. I mean, you think back to those times. They were pretty good times for me.
I tried to do it on Sideshow. For some reason, it didn't work.
Yeah.
I was probably the only guy that didn't make love on my own song. You know, I was the only one. So what can I tell you? You know.
But it's, you got tremendous credits there of so many things. Now, what was it like? I seen also down there the Jacksons were there. Where did that come in? I mean, they're definitely not Philly style.
Yeah, Jackson came in a little bit later, in 1976, right after they left Motown. Gamble and Huff signed them to Philadelphia International, but it was Epic through Philadelphia International. We did 2 albums together, an album called Going Places, and I forget the actual name of the second album, but the first single was called Enjoy Yourself, which was a #1 platinum single, and it was fun working with them. It was minus Jermaine. Jermaine stayed with Motown because he was married to Berry Gordy's daughter.
Who owned Motown?
Who owned Motown at the time.
I'm just trying. I got that name. I'm starting to stay with him a little bit here, so I'm catching up with you. Berry Gordy, of course, Motown, and so now we're back to the Jacksons.
Back to Jacksons, and yeah, so they stayed on for a couple of albums, and it was fun. Michael was being reclusive, playing with animals and young guys and whatever, people's babies, but you didn't hear that from me.
The story's coming out about Michael once again. I mean, even way back when. So it was the 70s time. I mean, things were really hot, and the Philly sound was really kicking at that time.
Yeah.
Disco music and all the clubs throughout the country.
Oh yeah.
I mean, just not here. Then you talk about the Blue Notes and all that. That even goes back before the 70s type of deal. So we're going to find out more about a lot of stories because that's what I want to get into. But first, I'm getting cued here that it's time for me to take a commercial break. So we're going to take a quick commercial break. This is Bobby Eli once again. Put your hands together. And when we come back, we're going to talk to him some more. So stay right with us and we'll be right back. La Gorilla family.